After his visit, Secretary of State Pompeo left Israel on an historic flight, the first ever direct flight from Israel to Sudan. Sudan is one of the Muslim countries that is strengthening ties with Israel. Pompeo continued on his journey to the Gulf states of Bahrain, the UAE, and Oman. His focus was the common threat the Sunni Gulf states face from Iran. Pompeo said he hoped other nations would follow the UAE in establishing ties with Israel, but he left for home without any clear commitments from Sudan, Bahrain, or Oman. Nevertheless, the recent peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates is getting positive reviews, and more countries in the Middle East could also establish ties with the Jewish state sooner rather than later. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has more on this story.
Whether it's the mutual threat of Iran, COVID-19, or other interests that inspired the Israel-UAE peace deal, investors believe it's just the beginning.
It's the third peace treaty signed between Israel and one of its Arab neighbors. The first one in '79 with Egypt was transformational. Took 15 years to get the second deal done with Jordan in 1994. And now 26 years later, we're doing number 3. But what I can bet you is that it's not going to take 26 years for number 4, 5, and 6.
Venture capitalist Jonathan Medved says Israel is taking its place as a valued member of the region.
We are going to work with perhaps the most progressive and interesting and developed Arab country in the United Arab Emirates on a broad range of interaction, including defense, intelligence, business, startups, tourism, civil aviation.
According to Medved, having a country with that level of sophistication partner with Israel could lead to great things.
I can't wait to develop technologies together with their excellent hospitals and logistics companies and trading companies and construction companies in diverse areas ranging from healthcare to property technology to smart cities to transportation to clean energy.
Medved, founder of the crowdfunding platform Our Crowd, knows what he's talking about as he took part at an economic conference last year in Abu Dhabi, capital of the UAE.
They were completely fine with me being open as an Israeli venture capitalist. I said, "You want me to speak about Israel?" And they said, "Absolutely. Why do you think we invited you here? We want you to talk about Israel."
Medved saw signs then that the two countries were moving closer.
What's rare is to find another country that has the same kind of breadth of interest that Israel represents in terms of its startup nation technology prowess.
Medved says while the Israel-UAE deal is a win-win for the two countries, it has the potential to succeed on a higher level.
But ultimately it will be good for the world because this is a major step forward in terms of putting to bed this 72-year-old conflict, which has taken so much attention and cost so much money and lives and sorrow. And we're moving into a new phase where people are saying, you know what? This is not about one side winning or one side losing. This is about accepting reality. And the reality is that Israel is here to stay.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Alpha Omega.